Tyler, the creator, is dope. I'm seeing a lot of drum breakdowns of Igor's theme, which makes sense because it's an acoustic drummer who's playing on the track. But what if you wanted to extract that groove and apply it to an electronic track, maybe with finger drumming? Whether it's Igor's theme or something else that's advanced, I'll be giving you tricks and tips on how to digest complex patterns like this one so that you could expand your rhythmic and musical vocabulary and apply these rhythms to your own music. So whatever machine you're using, MPC, machine, SP404, MIDI controller, anything, it doesn't really matter. The bare minimum that you need is 4 pads for this particular pattern. I do have an MPC-1, which I use mostly for finger drumming videos, but I wanted to switch it up for this one and use the Beatbox by Rhythmo. I'm not sponsored in any way by Rhythmo. They sent me the Beatbox maybe 2 months ago without any sort of agreement. They just sent it. And it's literally a cardboard box that you have to assemble yourself. So if I open it up, you could see all of the parts in there. Not gonna lie, this thing was a to build. As you can see here, there's a bit of a blemish, which I kind of messed that one up during the building process.
And that's character, I guess.
It's actually a monitor as well. There's speakers in the back, which sound nice and crunchy, actually. The only thing that might bother some people is that the buttons are a little bit clicky. The sounds are not coming from the box. I'm hooked up to a drum machine in my DAW. Seeing as this is more of an advanced video, I'm assuming that you already have some sort of command over pad setup. It's an acoustic drummer on the track. I have 3 samples right here. So I have kick, snare, hi-hat. Let's break this sucker down. I just want to start by saying that if you are frustrated at any point in the video, I've left a timestamp for the end of the video of me going through each individual bar in the pattern 8 times through. So to get your ears used to it. That way you could really zero in on smaller parts of the pattern and ingrain those into your head and then eventually piece them all together. And in the end, that's really what this video is all about. Muscle memory is a big part of it. If you know how to read music notation and you're a bit more of a visual type of learner, I definitely suggest to write this pattern down. In fact, here, you know what I'll do? Here's a close-up of this entire pattern if you just like to jot it down right now. If you're not a reader though, there's no issue. The trick is to break things down and memorize them. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So let's have a go at Igor's theme. So your dominant hand plays 16th notes on the hi-hat, so my dominant is my right hand. And left hand covers kick and snare. I'll start off by just playing the whole groove. Now let's start to isolate. I'll slow down the metronome, I'll play through the first bar, and I'll do that 4 times. So here's our click, 2, 3, 4. Another sort of embarrassing way to get better is to count out loud with what you're playing. At first, it definitely sounds like you're adding weight to something that's already difficult, but once you get the hang of it, it really does help. Let's put that metronome back on. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If counting just feels way too foreign to you, it's definitely something to consider for the future with finger drumming. Another thing you could do that helps is to isolate each hand. So obviously your right hand or your dominant hand is just playing 16th notes, just a constant pattern. It's the left hand that's obviously constantly changing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's move on to bar number 2. I'm going to be doing this without the metronome. When When I was first figuring this groove out, it was the last 2 beats of that phrase specifically that were giving me an issue. If you want, you could break it down even further if there's like a really specific kink within the beat. And that's exactly what I did. You could slow it down to as slow as you want. So that's the last 2 beats. Whole thing. Let's say you've gotten through those first 2 bars and you're comfortable with both of them. The next step is to add those 2 bars together. We're sort of pushing the limits of our rhythmic memory in this case, which is a great exercise. Good for the brain. I'm going to turn the metronome back on, speed it up a little bit, and let's play those 2 bars. 2, 3, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, So we've gotten through the first half of the beat now. Let's deposit that to memory and put it aside. So here's what the first half of the second part sounds like. Little pro tip, side note about playing with the metronome. It does help with your timing, absolutely. That being said, it can get in your way if you're learning new patterns, so don't let it discourage you. Contrary to popular belief, I recommend turning the metronome off if it's getting in the way of the coordination of this pattern. We'll do the exact same thing with the second half of the pattern. I'm going to start with just the left hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You might have noticed that for the second half, there's a tricky little pass where you play kick and snare at the same time. I guess you can consider this like extra advanced, so it's optional, but this is another part of the pattern that was really giving me an issue. So once again, when I was learning it, I isolated those last 2 beats. I'm really gonna slow this one down. And to really zero in here, when I'm playing kick and snare at the same time, my middle finger is playing the kick and my index is playing the snare. Like that. Just for that one note. Next, we'll play the second half of the entire pattern, so the last 2 bars. If you're having a hard time with this and need to sort of unpack it a little bit more, no worries. Here's a clip of each bar repeated at a slower tempo 4 times. Good job, you guys. You made it. This is a really complex pattern. One last recap of what we did. So this was a 4-bar pattern. We split the whole thing into 2 parts, and then we isolated those 2 separate parts into to help memorize everything. Once the 2 separate parts were comfortable, we added them all together to create a 4-bar pattern. And of course, if there's any, like, I guess I'd call them micro passages, so like very small parts of the beat that are throwing you off, just isolate those and repeat them over and over again, even if it's one beat. It's just a great way to sort out the kinks coordination-wise. Hopefully this was insightful for you guys and helps you break down future complex patterns. The idea here is to obviously expand your rhythmic vocabulary and to help your coordination. Breaking down and memorizing patterns like this it's a muscle, basically. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing if you're into this sort of content. I've got some other finger drumming videos as well, all linked in the description. And my job is done here. I will see you guys soon, hopefully.